Well, it's been 1 week now since the release of Hermitage, which is a very interesting album. I think it's probably a bit gloomier, for lack of a better word, than some of the previous albums, including 1755. Overall, what was the atmosphere like when recording this album?
Well, I have to say that I think it's, I believe it's a good thing that people are still intrigued about our direction, about our album, with so many albums under the belt, with the approaching of 30 years of career. Give it or take it, it's never been boring for the fans. That much they have to credit us.
Yeah.
I think the atmosphere was amazing. Jaime Gomes Arellano is a great guy, amazing producer, a person with a lot of taste and a lot of ideas behind what he does. And I kind of tend to really like people that don't do it just like in a factory, that they have their setup and you have to go accordingly. Gomez is a little bit like us. He had no real plan. Obviously, he did it professionally, but it was more a go with the flow, and I think that kind of really helped the album in the end. And what I call knowing what we want, but also keeping it spontaneous, or at least natural. In a way, I mean, obviously there was all this back and forth with the COVID rules and also with the Brexit. Nowadays, it's very hard, to go to the UK or harder. But sometimes we came to the situation that should we go to the airport? Should we stay at home? The bags were packed, and we're so used to travel. But 2 years without traveling, you forget about almost everything. But I mean, as a singer and as a band member, I think probably was the best atmosphere ever.
Wow.
Orgon Studios is in rural England, so under the limitations, we could still, go for a stroll, see the 12th century stone churches, all these Black Sabbath environment. So that quite helped. I think nowadays at this stage of the Moonspell path, you're really more open to let things that happen in our life, even just walking down to such a beautiful medieval church, to let into our music. So I mean, it was quite the privilege, and I believe we had the sense of opportunity to go to the UK. Because sometimes it wasn't that easy, and also we enjoyed every minute of it. I think in such a typical year where you are counting more things that were canceled or postponed to do something, especially to do an album the way we wanted with the producer we picked up. It was nothing but a privilege, and I hope that shows in the music, in the final result as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely got a different vibe about it than previous Moonspell albums. I think every Moonspell album has its own story and atmosphere and all this kind of thing. But what was the reasoning or importance of recording in England?
Well, I think we just kind of felt it when we arrived to the Organ studio, because there was some limitations. The band could not be there all together. I mean, we had to crisscross our schedules, so I went a little bit last minute. Pedro and Ricardo, they are more handling the songwriting and the production aspect of things. They stood there for over a month. Hugo and Iris, drummer and bass player, we couldn't be all together in the room. And I think that when I arrived there, I think that it was so perfect to record there, and I think it was so influential because the Organ Studios used to be an old like Radio Shack from Second World War, where you had all these radio small buildings, so that you could trace the communications, of the Nazis, and also help out with the information, about the air raids and everything. So it kind of sits in the middle of nowhere. I mean, sometimes I was just, taking a piss in the wind, against the wind, which I love. For me, it's an act of freedom. I don't want to be sexist, but it's something that really, reminds me of freedom, such a loss, these days. And I was just seeing, the hawks, the birds, the rabbits running, all the nature, and feeling like nothing was happening outside. So it was quite of a hermitage as well, a hermitage. It was quite special to record to the UK, in the UK. It was our second time in the UK. And I believe that, the UK can be very inspirational. That's why I am so sad that all these riches from the UK, especially in terms of music, culture, will become a little bit or a lot more difficult to get now and to absorb in a way. So it was everything had a great feeling, but a bittersweet taste, because it was also probably one of the last albums recorded at that studio, because I think that Gomez wants to come and live in Portugal. Imagine that. And also it's a farewell to the England that we were used to when we first time played abroad. It was in London at the Devil's Church clubbing thing. And at the Camden, and nowadays it's going to be hard. So he had this bittersweet feeling, but I think in the end, picking up the UK was great, because I think this is the closest that we will get to record an album like bands did in the 70s. When I looked to Gomez's computer, I was like, well, this doesn't look like Houston, we have a problem. This looks quite comprehensible. There was not a lot of layouting. There was not a lot of, layers as well. When he said wall of sound, it was actually a wall of sound. He had, I don't know, more than 50 amps and heads, from Roland Jazz Chorus to, Van Halen, Peavey. Our guitar player Ricardo was like a kid in a candy store. So it was very cool to record, and it does sound, let's say this word nowadays, it's became a little bit, used for everything. But I think it really owes justice to the album. It sounds very organic. It sounds like five guys playing for you or for anyone else. Not that we do not want to play it live, but if we could play to one person at a time, I think this album will be very enjoyable, because it's exactly what we wanted to do. We stripped down the operatic layers, we stripped down the guests, the female vocals, the backing vocals. It's a rich album. There's a lot of texture, I have to say. But it's not this kind of album where everything is like, stepping in the pedal. That kind of bothers me nowadays with metal. That's why I prefer the post-metal and the post-rock, because everything is more fluid. While metal, even though it's very enjoyable, everything is in your face in just a couple of minutes, and it's like, wow, sometimes it's overwhelming. And it strikes me, how can musicians do that? Play so fast, play so many notes. The singers, females or males, deliver so much in just 5 minutes. Maybe it comes with age, but we kind of enjoy doing more moody stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, when you have that time to digest something and really have it become more of a journey, if you like, it's almost like a book in a way. Not this book, but
all right,
a different book. Now, of course, this is the first album with Hugo on drums. How well did he fit in with the recording?
Well, I wasn't there, but I know that Hugo will nail it. Hugo was quite after, I wouldn't say tragic. We're from Portugal, and we never really changed a lot our lineup. With all due respect, it's not like we don't have the same mentality Scandinavian bands. They all friends. They all drink together. You know, even when they are when they split up. The other day, I just read that the former drummer of Amon Amart was just apologizing to the band to cause some grievance. And I was like, wow, I wish that happened with the Portuguese people. The split of Mike was kind of heartbreaking for me. Was kind of killing my own notion. Maybe I was wishful thinking that the band is a family. The band has strong ties, but you know, it's not like a family. It's something else, you know, that I have to figure out. So we really needed like a really different person, a different drummer, and someone that would bring more solutions than problems also to the band. And we were just lucky that Pedro found out Hugo. I knew about him. He played in some metal bands here in Portugal. And the first time I met him in Portugal, I thought he was such a cool dude. You know, not too little, not too much. I kind of like people like that. You know, he was just very happy and enthusiastic of being in Moonspell, but also he wasn't. He knew in his humble way that he definitely deserved the job, and it definitely was probably the biggest break of his drumming career, which for me to always be weird. You know, I think Hugo could definitely play in a bigger band or even in a better band, but I think that that really ultimate test was then when he sat down to play the old songs with us, because we had some shows in Portugal. Also, we had some TV shows, like I told you, and it felt right. I think that for me it was really, really important that he played it, you know, on his own way, but bringing life. And I mean, when we were ready, Pedro and Ricardo had all the drums like programmed and set up in their minds, and it was just really cool for them to work with someone that did not only translate their ideas, but added a lot of things of his own. I mean, I'm too old to be, you know, I don't want to do that to Hugo, like saying, oh, he's the new guy, so we're all excited. And in a couple of months when we tour, we say, oh man, this guy is not what he's supposed to be. So I take things slowly. But I think Hugo was quite the person we needed, and he has taste. You know, he can do a lot of stuff. I compare him a little bit with Ricardo. Sometimes their playing can be like in the metal standards, like underwhelmed, because Ricardo's not always shredding. He can shred, believe me, and Hugo is not always playing the double kick. But I like that. It's taste. It means that they are really accomplished musicians. That they do not need to show off. That they serve the band like all of us do with Moonspell. It's not a band full of virtuous people. Well, we're virtuous in other ways, I hope. But you know, technically, it's never been our thing, and we got a lot of criticism for that, especially when we showed up in the Portuguese scene. You know, having ideas that we couldn't play at all, especially in Under the Moonspell, was so over the top. But we're also very open to learn, and I think Hugo really fits into that category. You know, he has a progressive mind. I don't mean the music, but definitely has a progressive mind. And I think, yeah, when we start playing live again, when we tour, it will be like really important to balance the chemistry of Moonspell.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing you again with Hugo on drums. And, like you say, it sounds like a really good fit, because I feel like you said before about modern metal being too in your face. So if you have someone that knows moderation or this kind of thing, they work perfectly in the dynamic. Can you talk a little bit about the title and the theme of the album? To be quite honest, I actually had to look the word up and find out what it meant, because my English is as bad as my Portuguese.
Don't say that.
So let's say I looked into it a little bit, and I wondered initially if it was related to the Santa Maria de Lara Hermitage in Spain, because that was the closest one I could find to Lisbon. or is it more like a general um, study or what's the word? In-depth look at hermits and hermitages?
Well, it's cool that you look up the word to talk with me, because I really, that's also something when I see something that I do not know, I don't feel ignorant. I feel excited, to be honest. You know, like, let me look this up. So yeah, I knew about Hermitage words for a while. I actually pointed down in 2017 and start doing my research as a lyric writer. I think, you know, guitar players and drummers, they practice so much. You know, they play some, that I'm, you know, get the singer is already like the most useless guy in the band. So I try really to, you know, come up with my own research, and that's very important. So it seems for Pedro and Ricardo, because they always tell me it's great when you come up with these ideas, because then we have a couple of riffs, a couple of moods, a couple of atmospheres, and it's like you name them. And when you name them or you christen them, they really get their own personality. And if you come here and say, let's write about this river in Portugal, you know, that has all these legends about it, the music will be different. Then you arrive and let's talk about the feverish hermit saints, you know, the fighting the demons, and let's try to translate it also into a more contemporary feeling. So there was kind of the first stone for our own Hermitage. And then I learned a lot, you know, and obviously there's many places. The other day I was speaking with someone from Texas, and he asked me, oh, is this the Hermitage of Andrew Jackson where they all add all the slaves? I said, come on, no. It's not that Hermitage. It's not also the St. Petersburg museum. It's that place of reality and fiction where people go to take a break. And then a lot of stuff happen. It can be your own room. It can be the desert if you want to go more romantic and Orthodox Catholic. But I think my stand was really, you know, the place where we like take a step back in order probably to move forward. Because one of the most interesting things I learned myself about the hermits was that they are solitary, but they are influential as well. There's this hermit that I found out about in my research. He was a German guy called Manfred Gnadiger, and he lived in Galicia. Galicia is a very cool region of Spain, probably the coolest. It just sits on top of Portugal. It's beautiful, and it's very it has a lot of folklore and a lot of culture as well. And you went there from Germany, and it was a sculpture, so it changed well, it changed a little bit, you know, the aspect of the coastline where he used to make his art. The community loved him, embraced him in a way, but left him alone. As well. And then when there was this natural disaster here in Spain and Portugal with the oil boat Prestige that you know, just spilled oil in all our coast, killing a lot of, you know, fauna and flora. It killed Manfred too, because all this atmosphere, all this world was destroyed and painted in thick black. And I really liked. Well, I didn't like that to happen to him, obviously, but I really was very intrigued between, you know, yeah, he was changing a little bit, but then the world, you know, the greedy world, the need for energy, the neglecting world that we live in, just won. In the end. So Hermitage can be also a history of overcoming. But I think that nowadays, in the state of things that we are, we really need to change our perspective, each one of us, because honestly, I don't think that our leaders will do that for us. Really, I think that the sense of community is completely lost. And then there's a lot of interpretations. I can also go to the social networking and find that we are all a bunch of hermits because we cannot talk about anything. We're losing friends over things that we change our minds. You know, left wing, right wing, center. You know, we just like stonewalling and social distancing before it was, mandatory.
Well, officially.
Yeah, so obviously the pandemics bring the album into a totally different form and totally different light, but basically the album is about being disconnected, yeah, and what we can do to find the trail again that can bring us closer, because we're not that close. And I don't mean this to be a joke about the pandemics, but even before, I think that we were already like pushing each other away and out of our ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Brexit earlier, and that's something over here that's had like a very strong effect in terms of people falling out and pushing each other away. It's like divided Britain, not literally down the line, but people here, people here, never the twain shall meet.
Yeah, I was speaking to a lot of people in the UK, and everyone, and I mean everyone that I spoke, they are totally disappointed about it.
Yeah,
And they are totally, especially younger people, they are totally not buying into the identity loss. I wasn't a fan of Europe when it started off, because Portugal had to give in a lot of their sovereignty, like the fishing quotas, etc. You can't mess with our fish here in Portugal. We are a fisherman country. But then I read something by a French writer called Laurent Godet, and he made this poem about Europe called Our Europe, and it was really mind blowing, and it really opened my horizons to see beyond division and see what could bring us together. Because if you discount all the politician mistakes, all the budgetary mistakes, etc., Europe was a federal project in order to avoid war, in order to compete with the superpotencies of the East and the West. And nowadays, it's very hard. And I don't want to make this about myself, but everybody's very affected. Like, we had a lot of business with the UK. We made our merchandise in the UK because it's quality, and knowledge that you guys have since many years, since the medieval fairs.
yeah,
You go to a tanner, you go to a blacksmith, and this is quality. Yeah, this is there's a lot to think about, and one of the things that I really love to read in English, to expand my English as well. And nowadays it's very hard to go to. I mean, I was such a big customer of Book Depository and everything, and nowadays they just keep my books in the border, and that kind of really breaks my heart, because especially books, they should have a free pass of traveling everywhere, because it's knowledge and it's culture. But yeah, it's gonna be really hard. And yeah, will it be worth it? I doubt it will, honestly. So far, I only see people complaining. It's not probably up to me, because I'm from Portugal, so I cannot even make that decision. Portugal is too small, has no power. But yeah, it makes you wonder, definitely.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, Britain doesn't have that much power, but it's a lot of British people, older British people especially, have convinced themselves that it does. They think of the empire and all this sort of shit. They keep going on about World War II because that was like the only war where we were on the right side of history. So, hey, bollocks to Brexit. Let's talk about Moonspell. That's much better. Well, you've done 3 videos so far, I believe. Hermit Saints, Common Prayers, and All or Nothing. They're also quite. They're each quite different. How well would you say the visuals represent the music itself?
Well, I love the visuals. For me, making like a video has really nothing to do with then where we're gonna share it. You know, for me, a video is an opportunity. Always has been of being visual. You know, in the strict sense of the word, with our music, and obviously we always try that very much. And it's like a process that starts also with me observing other kinds of visual art than music. Obviously, we are very influenced by bands. You know, music in general, from Bathory to Pink Floyd, you know, from Tiamat to whatever. Are our main influences. That's what we do. But many times we write songs, and I'm such a pain in the ass. I send everybody mood boards like watch Caravaggio. This will help you to understand that it can be epic, but it has to be dark as well. The Chiaro Oscuro, for instance, and that kind of influences a lot Moonspell, and that's why we care so much about the visuals. We try not to run really cheap because we know what people like, you know.
Yeah.
So, and we could have. I never invested too much on the YouTube, even though I think it's an important media. I don't want to be the old school guy that has no TV or YouTube. I even have a YouTube account I never use, but we have the Moonspell small account. But when you take that off the radar, I think it allows you to have much better videos. And I think our videos, it's a hard selection. I would like to make videos, and it's still in the plans for every song, even smaller videos, trying to hire some creative artists. For instance, I would love to have Jonathan Hulton video for Moonspell for one particular song, the guy, the ex Tribulation, because I think I love the way he presents his music visually. It's very thoughtful, and it's very beautiful and heartwarming even. So we started off, actually we started with the lyric video, The Greater Good. It wasn't in the plans. I think the label wanted to start with a Common Praise video because it's more of a production. But I said, no, let's start with The Greater Good, because I think it's more complete. And it's also, even though it's a lyric video, it had a lot of thought put into that. And some people say, oh, it's very political. I'll say, well, for me, it's more of a philosophical questioning video, just like the lyric, than taking sides and being politic. It's taking sides, definitely, and I'm not taking sides there. And then it was censored by the YouTube, which is very ironic because I made sure with Guilherme. Guilherme is the guy that directed all the 4 videos. He's a 25-year-old kid, I might say, because I'm 46, so I could be his dad. He also plays in a brilliant band here in Portugal called Guerra, this kind of cathartic black metal, really good. And he has a lot of taste, and I really want to work with people that I can share my vision with, and then they take it elsewhere, and they definitely make it really better. So I told them we're gonna use, this video is gonna be troublesome, but we're gonna use images taken from the YouTube. So the YouTube kind of censor itself, you know, which is very ironic in a way, and even that carries a message to the ones viewing it. Common Prayers, it's a song about a forbidden love that also tells a lot. With Hermitage, it's like, even though sometimes there are older subjects, they can definitely tap into today's things. You know, there's still nowadays there's not people or women being thrown at the nunnery because they are too old to get married. It was, I mean, in the Middle Ages, it was like 20 or 23 or already too old to get married because you were married at 12 or 13. And then they got, you know, abused. And I read somewhere that there was this big, in the end of the 17th century, there was this big pregnancy surge in nunneries, because yeah, the nobleman and even the priests inside, they treated like the nunneries like the private whorehouses. You know,
Yeah.
they're just there, and they were just available. So there's this questioning too over there in that video, and I wanted to record it in a natural place. So I went down 80 meters deep, 80, 90 meters to record that video. I made contact with kind of natural caves here in Portugal. So the location is all real. It's no chroma, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful, and it was really cool. Then we had All or Nothing, which is in a small empty theater here, kind of an abandoned place, 20th century, early 20th century theater. It's beautiful, and that video is quite heartbreaking. And even before COVID, I wanted to record in an empty theater.
Yeah.
You know, just to show sometimes, you know, the distance, sometimes also the, how can I say, you know, the absence, the emptiness that it's, I always have this, sometimes when I have a good show, the other day I feel really empty, not because I missed the show, but I scratch it one day, you know,
Yeah.
one day less, one day more is one day less. So I think that's the all or nothing concept. And Hermit Saints, it's a very simple video that we wanted to bring together our love for you know, plastic art. I love all kinds of art, from contemporary. I love Pollock, but I love Hieronymus Bosch. So I don't have money to collect art, unfortunately, but I love it. You know, and
Yeah.
for me, going to a museum and watch, like I did many times. You know, for instance, when I was in London, one of the first things I did was to go to Modern Tate and Saatchi, and I loved it. I loved the
Yeah.
experience. It was like seeing a live show in a way. So we kind of brought together like the pseudo live performance of the band and the big, huge ass screen that I got from some friends, because here in Portugal it's all about the connections. And Guilherme just did all this incredible imagery using the Flemish, the great masters, using Bosch. We also had some footage from the Hill of Crosses in Lithuania, which is an amazing place, but Sol Safir recorded already there a video, so we couldn't go there anyway because of the COVID, but even if we could, we didn't want our video to look like Sol Safir, which is a band I really love and respect, and I didn't want to copy them at all. Yeah, and we did a lot of content because we have no show, so it's a way of shortening the distance as well, and people can see us. And even the band members, Hugo, of course, the video is a playback, but we're playing it hard, so it's convincing. And he said, "I loved it. You know, it was like playing live." So I'm putting it down on my list, as well as something I did last year. And I think it's really cool videos. I think even my favorite is probably Hermit Saints, because it's so dynamic and so visual, and there's so much art into it. I don't know. I think Guilherme, our director, kind of nailed the videos. I think it's very important for people to watch meaningful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Moonspell's always kind of been a law unto itself. You know, you've had like more story-driven videos as well as kind of like more live-orientated stuff as well. So to have that variation in the videos so far has been a really good thing, I think. And also, you know, if people just want to watch you live, this is available still.
Yeah.
Thank you for signing that, by the way.
Yeah.
Also, the artwork for the album itself. I mean, obviously we've touched on art itself a few times throughout this interview, but the artwork is really beautiful. It's very kind of lonely in a way, very solitary, which is obviously part and parcel of Hermitage. But you work with Arthur Brzinch on this artwork. He's done work for Cradle of Filth and Interfere and a bunch of other cool bands. So, how did you get in touch with Arthur for this?
Arthur is amazing. is a modern master. You know, some people are designers, some people do artwork, but I think Arthur really falls in the category of being an artist, a fully accomplished artist with exhibited work, etc. So I have to say that obviously I loved what he did for Cradle of Filth, and as people know, we're very close to Cradle. We met in the 90s, and we've been friends and allies. No Brexit can separate us, you know. I met him personally in Latvia, where he's from, and I mean, he's a very nice guy, and he gave me his catalog, you know, and I always kept him in the back of my mind until I thought we had the right theme for him, and the art actually that came in the end is just a small piece of what he did. He did amazing stuff. So I got in touch with him, and I told him, well, I really love your work. Obviously, I want something different from Cradle of Filth. Our music is not so black metal oriented. It's a little bit more loose. So, and I told him, I don't want you to do any artwork. I want you to do the 3 pictures. That's it. I don't want you to go around and get crazy with napalm standards and templates. No, I want you to just, I wanted to protect him. I have a guy that does that. I want you to be totally free to do what you want. And then obviously came my favorite part, which was to talk about concept and art. And I really love when people can explain their ideas also with words. And Arthur is a genius when it comes to that. After he turned in the artwork, I asked him to write 3 small like texts as if it was for a catalog. Just, you know, and he wrote brilliant text, and I told him, wow, this is amazing. You're not just an artist, you have a philosophy behind how you get there. It's a part of your process. So we did 3 pictures. Actually, we have different names, but I will use these names for the picture. Walking on Water, that became the cover. And I think it's a brilliant like still of past, present, and future. The past is obviously Living Town, which is a very important theme. Living Town as a symbol of, well, that's not working, you know, it's drowning, actually. Is Walking on the Water, which is an idea from Arthur. And I loved it because, I mean, the British poet Coleridge described reading as a suspension of belief. You have to believe it. You know, even the little kids and girls especially, you cannot be the bastard and say unicorns do not exist. You know, otherwise it's just a killjoy, and you spoil the magic of reading and art in general. So Walking on the Water, which is very biblical as well. And that figure of the hermit, we don't know where it's going. That's my interpretation of the cover. You know, then we have the Expecting Nun, or Immaculata, how Arthur entitles that picture, which is pretty obvious about you know, the common prayers story. That was my idea. I said I want a nun and a pregnant nun, but then he didn't make a baby. He made something like, you know, an object. And then we also agreed for him to review the Temptations of Saint Anthony that everybody has painted, from Dali to Ernst to obviously Hieronymus Bosch, and that painting is in Portugal. I've been there watching it, and it's amazing with all the abstract doomy figure that is the concept of God and Saint Anthony. That's the back cover of the album. And when Arthur first, he sent me some sketches, and I mean, it's very hard. It's like you sending demos to the producer. Sometimes things are a bit rough in the edges, and you feel like, oh, I have to work with this. This is not so good. But I trusted him because one thing for me, it's a point, and it's a red line. I do not approach someone I like and then tell him or her, you have to do like this. There's too many musicians like this, you know, the know-it-all. And sometimes it's not, a lot of the times it's not what they wanted, it's not what the artist wanted, it's something halfway and soulless. in a way.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we talked enough. I mean, just go Caravaggio on this. And I think when you see the album, especially the vinyl edition, it's unbelievable. We were totally in Napalm's necks. You know, just you have to have the hot foil. You have to have this kind of paper. The degradé has to be like this, and they really look like canvas. It's unbelievable. I think it's our most beautiful record ever. And just to sum it up, you know, I received the files on the computer, obviously, and actually Arthur then called me up and said, "What do you think?" Because he was curious. Obviously, you know. I mean, I was really on the verge of tears because it was beautiful, and more than beautiful, it did completely. It was completely to the point. That's exactly what I wanted. I couldn't explain him, you know, what I wanted. Obviously, there's always this, you know, communication barrier, and especially I cannot draw anything, so I cannot just send me, and I didn't want to send him any sketches. I think it's the most beautiful Moonspell record ever, hands down. We have amazing covers like Night Eternal, Wolf Art is such an emblematic cover as well. Old School, maybe.
I think that's a sign that I've taken up too much of your time.
Oh, wait. I think it's, yeah, I think I have to go for the other interview. It's a reminder. No, but no problem. I mean, I can still have 5 minutes for you. That's not a problem. Sorry, this is like going to the psychologist. It's half an hour, 1 hour. I feel so bad, but yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool, man. In which case, I will wrap up now because
Cool.
I've talked your ears off. And but thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today. I really do appreciate it. This has been eye-opening.
All right, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the support. And be safe, etc. All these, you know,
all these cliches.
Yeah. These days are the cliches. Even people sometimes they ask me, "How are you?" and say like, "How can I be?" You know, it's just here in Portugal now. Our numbers were cut like more than half, and we're still in lockdown. There's just, you know, punishment. There's no reward for us behaving, you know. All right. Take care of yourself. All the best. Bye-bye.
Muito obrigado.
Obrigado.